Hey y'all, welcome to my channel. I'm Amber and today I'm going to be sharing with you my weekly reading wrap up. This week I finished 3 books and I DNF'd one. So let's just get started with my first book, which was a reread, and that is The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien. This is the first part of Lord of the Rings. And I used the audiobook they owned to help it along. I was about almost 200 pages in when this week started. So I finished the rest of it in one day that I was determined. And yeah, I really enjoyed reading this. Something that I kind of realized is that I think Boromir, who is one of the characters that I really do not like, um, was jealous of Aragorn or Strider, um, which because he is the rightful heir to the throne and he could easily just take the throne or whatever. And I never liked Boromir because he was such a negative, he was so a negative influence on the group. And it was just every time they were suggesting something, he would just be putting negatively talking about it. It was just really frustrating, but at the same time I really did feel bad for Boromir because for some reason he was the ring has such a bad effect on him. But either way, those are something that I realized I didn't ever really think of him being jealous of Aragorn before, but I think that he was kind of jealous of him. He had the respect of those around him in a way that I don't know if Boromir felt that he had. But anyways, really enjoyed this overall. I never like cared one way or the other about the Tom Bombadil perspective. This is the thing about Tolkien is that he puts a lot of things in these books. He goes on winding side paths talking about the world in itself, giving you histories, songs, all that stuff that could be easily taken out and wouldn't impact the plot of the book one way or the other. So it's you wouldn't be missing anything, but at the same time it also it's especially if you're rereading it, it's really kind of nice to see it play out because it's just something to enjoy for the sake of it. um but I never liked the Tom Bombadil parts because I just found that kind of frustrating and annoying. But I do really enjoy my rereads. I'm more excited to get on to the next 2 books because those are actually my favorites. So anyways, there's that. And then I got from the library The Nightmare Thief by Nicholas Perans. I've already returned it. This one is about Marin, who lives in this town where everybody has specific magic, and her family have the magic of creating dreams. And her and her grandmother work in a dream shop, or that her grandmother owns, where they create dreams that people either request or they can buy ready-made dreams or nightmares even. But her and her sister Hallie get into a car accident that leaves Hallie in a coma, and Mary really wants to give her a dream, but there is a rule where the only way that you can give people a dream is if they consent. But she goes ahead and gives her this dream, and she ends up being blackmailed by this mysterious, creepy woman who has a very dark purpose because she ends up blackmailing her into creating nightmares for her. So overall, I really enjoyed this. This is a middle grade fantasy magical realism um, book, and I really enjoyed the story, and I enjoyed Marin and seeing a really fleshed out realistic character, which I haven't seen a lot of when it comes to middle grade. I haven't read a lot of middle grade, so maybe that is why I'm just choosing the wrong ones. But either way, it was just really nice to see her having a full fleshed character and personality, and seeing her really deal with complex emotions centered on the fact that her sister is in a coma and she feels guilty about that. Then she's dealing with her own guilt when it comes to how she got herself into the situation of being blackmailed and such, and just all these other emotions that kind of go that are around all this too. And just I didn't expect this book to be as creepy, and if you're somebody who has a phobia when it comes to insects and bugs, I would go into this more cautiously because they are very much present in this story. And yeah, I didn't expect it to like get that creepy, and I'm not a fan of bugs or insects, and so that was a little bit of a but I truly enjoy like the writing and the characters and such. But then one thing that really bothered me about this is the ending, where like it felt like she kind of rushed the ending, trying to tie up everything in a tidy, cute bow and make everything feel like a happy dory ending. Which I get, it's middle grade, but it also was very unrealistic. So this might be a bit spoilery. So if you do not want to watch this last part, just try to skip to the next one. I don't know if I can put a time code. I'll try to put a time code down below so you can like click to the next book. But either way, this might be a little bit spoilery. So she had a best friend named Amos who, and they stopped being friends because Marin was being bullied. She'd been bullied for years by this boy named Cyrus, and like it was getting really bad to the point where she wanted to like change schools. But then for some reason Amos started being friends with this bully, and when she finally made him choose between her or Cyrus, he chose Cyrus over her. So like he betrayed her, he hurt her in a very big way. And like throughout the book, like they come back together, but it was like the whole time he was trying to convince her that like, you know, he had tried to change him, like not change him, but like to make him stop bullying her. And like he said that he had tried several times, but it never worked. And like it was like he was trying to like make up by helping her. And my problem is how this book ends. It ends with her forgiving and I think becoming friends with Amos again. And then Amos talks to Cyrus, and in one talking to, it's like a 360, and he like apologizes to her, which doesn't really make sense. If somebody had been bullying somebody for like that long, it's gonna take more than just that. A one talking to, especially when he had already said that he had, and it doesn't make sense as to like what happened with the main plot for there to be a change. So I just didn't particularly think it was realistic, and it gives it like an unrealistic perspective to middle grade students maybe experiencing bullying. Like you should just forgive your friends, your friends, just because they say sorry. And I just like that's unrealistic. You were bullied for years, and your best friend betrayed you in such a big way and chose the person who was harming you. Yeah, it was going to take a lot more than an apology and a one-time talking to the bully to get my trust back. I may be able to forgive them, but I'm not sure I would ever want to be friends with somebody who would do something like that. It would take a lot more than him accidentally getting involved. He made the choice to get involved and you didn't want him involved. Why are you feeling guilty about it? You know, like, I don't know. It just feels a little too neat. And also, like, she forgives the bully, and I'm just like, okay, somebody was bullying me that long, and I've experienced bullying in my past. Like, even the small amount that I was bullied by that kid, it would take a little bit more than just a one-time apology for me to trust them, and certainly wouldn't forgive them very easily. So I just think it's an unrealistic picture of the situation and what it's like to be bullied, and like she just wanted everything to like have a happy ending, and I'm just like, you don't need that happy of an ending. It was happy enough with her with how things ended, you know. So anyways, I did give this 4 stars. I enjoyed it. There is going to be a second book. I think this is just going to be a duology, so it should be coming out next year, which I think I will pick up. But either way, did enjoy it. Then the last book I finished this week is definitely going to be my favorite book of the year, of this month. I just know the author is going to be my favorite author, that I will pick up everything and anything that they write. So that would be The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. This one I read in just like 2 days. This is like 500 pages, and okay. This is about Paige Mahoney, who is a clairvoyant, and in this world, this futuristic urban fantasy as world, being a clairvoyant, or voyant as they would call themselves, is illegal, and they tend to be hunted, tortured, even killed, and sometimes turned into slaves, until their use, you know, and then they are executed. And So she is like a criminal, like she works in like a syndicate, she's part of a gang, um, and then she gets taken by a group called the Requiem that she didn't even know existed, and she becomes the slave to these people. They uh, and her master Warden, as he has her call him, um, is very like intriguing, and she has to try to find a way to like work him so that she can get out of there. Um, this book, okay, other than the Pirate of the Orange Tree, I have never experienced that desire, that need to like continue reading until you're done. Like I had a hard time putting this book down, and when I had it down, had to put it down, I was always seeking ways to pick it back up. I have never experienced that. Like if I was somebody who didn't need sleep in order to function, like I like really need sleep, um, I would have read it all the way through the night. Um, but yes, this was just amazing. It was intense. You were always on the edge of your seat, worrying about what was going to happen to Paige, what's going to happen to the other characters that you meet along the way. Like I literally just I cried. Like there was like two specific scenes where like it made me cry because I felt bad for Paige. I felt bad for the character. I just oh my gosh, and like Warden is such like an awful person. Yet there are layers to him, and he's not what you think, right? You know, he's not a good guy, maybe not really a bad guy. Who knows? You can interpret it. Um, I just really loved how she's able to create this world. She like it's not even like it doesn't even feel like she's actually like building a world. The story tells the world itself. Paige shows you what this world is through her experiences and her own discoveries and such, and I just like love how natural and easy it feels. It just sucks you in, and it like literally never let me go. I had to keep going. I had to know what's going to happen next. And she just knows how to write. Like she's absolutely my favorite author at this point. And I just love Paige. I'm always a sucker for women who are kick ass. Um and I know like there's like the issues that people have when it comes to like how authors write women who are kick ass. Like there's no sense of like showing the different facets of them. And I do think that you do see her vulnerable sides here and there, and she has to make herself vulnerable at points. So like I think that this author does a really good job in that. But I just overall I love it. I loved it so much. It was an experience that I never had before when it comes to how much I really just wanted to keep on reading. And yeah, this kind of like ruined the rest of my week when it comes to reading because I was planning to get done with another book or at least to get like halfway through because it's like a very chunky book. So like but I just couldn't do it. I definitely think it affected my reading with the next book that I tried and DNF'd, but not fully enough. Um, but anyways, 5 stars. Like I said, it's absolutely gonna be my favorite book of the year. I can just see it, unless the next books somehow are even better than this. Like I don't know how they can be better than this, but you just never know. Anyways, moving on to the DNF of the week, and that would be The Gardens of the Moon by Steven Erikson. This is like a I can't even know. I can't even tell you what it's really about. It's just it feels like there was an overthrow of sorts, and then you're seeing like different people dealing with the fallout of this person taking over the throne and the mess it's created. And then there's like an outside force, I think, that's coming to try to take them down or whatever. I don't know anymore. I really did not like how this author wrote this. It's like you have multiple perspectives from different groups, and they kind of like it's just like it's kind of messy to me, and it's hard for me to like wrap it. I don't mind multiple perspectives, but it has to be done well and it has to be organized. I can't. My brain just cannot handle like Tigana is kind of like similar to this in a way where like you have this like expansive panoramic view of things. But what I appreciated from Tigana, which I wasn't getting from this, is that you did get a focus when it comes to who was who and who was whose perspective you were in. Like you had a solid idea of who was telling the story, and it wasn't like all over the place with multiple people like telling like coming in and out with their perspectives and their thoughts. It just this was like a lot, and it was just too much. And I DNF'd it because I couldn't handle that. I don't know if it's, and I saw somebody say that it was like the whole book was like that, and she even mentioned like how like the author like just will bring in like random characters that you don't even really understand, and then the role building itself, like I could never, I got like 60 pages in and I still couldn't understand what the world was. At that point I should have some kind of understanding of the world, the plot, and the characters, and I was barely getting there, and it was just really frustrating, and I just didn't, I just couldn't handle it. Maybe I will go back to this book when maybe, but I don't think so. I don't know, because I saw somebody talk about this book and I was like, I felt guilty because I was like, oh no. But it's like we all have our ways of reading, and our minds, you know, function differently when it comes to how we are able to digest stories. So I just have to like recognize that for me, this just wasn't the format or the way of telling that I can um, handle and enjoy. So, anyways, I did enough to that. Then onto my TBR for this week. Um, the first one is the one that I just started yesterday, and that is Wizard's First Rule by Terry Goodkind. This is the first book in the Sword of Truth series. I'm 91 pages into this. Oh no, I just realized that I lost my marker. Good thing I remembered where it was. But anyway, 91 pages into it, and I'm really enjoying this story. So this is about Richard, who I was going to tell it through here. So Richard Cypher was woodsman and warrior chosen to bear the powerful sword of truth, but his enemy, Dark and Raw, is a royal mage who commands armies, cities, beasts, and more terrible by far, a twisted magic. So far what I've gotten from this is like you have like three like different like worlds. They're all part of one world, but they're like different sections of each world that are separated by this boundary that if you walk through, you would never be able to get out of. That was placed there by a wizard who was protecting the Midlands. So you have like the section of the world that the Dark and Roll is, and it's like a whole like complicated. I'm not gonna go into it because you should just read this. I'm 91 pages in and I'm really enjoying it. And I will mention this. I tried the audiobook for this and I really didn't like it because the narrator was changing words and phrases, and I don't appreciate or respect that because it didn't feel like it was a mistake. This narrator was literally changing like multiple words inside one sentence, like changing the meaning and the connotations behind that sentence. Like the way that you structure a sentence has meaning to the story, and I don't think you as a narrator have the right to do that. And this was supposed to be like an unbridged reading, so why are you changing major aspects of the sentence? It just really frustrated it, annoyed me, and I don't have respect for that. So overall, I just couldn't continue on because that just kept making me more angry, and it wasn't a mistake because it was multiple times in like in 1 or 2 pages, time. So I just know it wasn't a mistake. He was purposely doing it, and I just didn't appreciate that. I don't think it's right for narrators to change the author's words, unless the only other thing that I can think of is he's reading from a different edition than the one that I'm reading from, and maybe the author is the one that changed it. Maybe I should find that out and see, because I would actually like to listen to this because that would help me like read faster, a little bit faster than what I am doing on my own. So I will see if I can find out about that. Then on to the book that I got from the library that I will be reading, which is Blood Like Magic by Lascelles Stanbury. This is about Voya, who, after years for waiting for her calling, it happens, but she ends up failing. So her and her family are witches, I believe, and you have to like do a test, I think, and which is called the calling, and if you succeed, you would come into your powers. But shocking, she fails for some reason. But then her young ancestors give her an unprecedented second chance to complete her calling. So of course she agrees, and the task that she's given is to kill her first love. Um, if she fails, every single Thomas witch will be stripped of their magic. So the problem is, even though she is very much determined, she has not ever been in love before. So she has to like try to find somebody that she can fall in love with, um, and fast. So she uses a genetic matchmaking program that has Joseph and Margaret to find somebody that she can, that the program will hopefully like make it easy for her to like find somebody to fall in love with. So she is matched with the infuriating Luke. How can she fall in love with a guy who seemingly wants nothing to do with her? So she has to like struggle against the pressures of her family and the fact that she herself won't, come into her own powers, and against the fact that she is actually maybe falling for him. So I'm very much excited for this. I've heard some very good things about this book, and yeah, this will be happening hopefully this week. And then, of course, I will be continuing on with the Bone season series by Samantha Shannon with the next book, The Mime Order, which is an ebook that I own. So we shall see. I'm kind of like scared because like I loved the first book so much. I am not sure how how much better it's gonna get. I'm just afraid that I'm gonna like it's just gonna like I'm gonna hate it, or I'm gonna love it so much that I'm gonna read the next two books and then I'll be done. And who knows how long it's gonna take for me to get to the next book, because it's not gonna be published until next year. But there's a lot of issues with like paper supply issues. I have been noticing that there's been a lot of like supply issues, not just in the printing but in other areas too. So like, wow, a lot of things are going on, and I'm not even sure like how this is happening or why. But yeah, so who knows what our future is when it comes to publishing. But anyways, I am gonna read it, and then of course, obviously, since I read The Fellowship of the Ring, we are going to be reading The Two Towers by J.R.R. Tolkien, the second part of The Lord of the Rings. I'm very much excited for this. I wish I had watched the movie. For some reason, I just can't get myself to like watch anything like movie wise. But yeah, very much excited to start that one. And then through Scribd, I'm going to be listening to A Princess in Theory, and this one is a romance about this woman who lives in the US, and she keeps getting these emails saying that she's a princess and that she needs to go to this country so that she can marry this specific prince, and that they're very excited and desirous for her to come and reclaim her, whatever. And she just believes it's spam. She's a scientist, I believe. Scientist. Yeah. Well, obviously she's a scientist. I know that much, but I don't know like what her like area is or anything specifically. I barely read this snippet, and it's just like she's at work, and then we're like typical man stuff going on there. But like she thinks it's just spam, and if I remember correctly from what I've heard other people talk about, is that the prince actually like travels to the U.S. to kind of like convince her to come. But I think it's kind of like one of those stories where like he pretends not to be the prince, and like and then he just like gets to know her, and then he has to like try to like reveal to her that who he really is, and that that she's actually a princess and all that jazz. Like we've seen stories like that before. I keep thinking of that movie, and I can't remember what it's called, but it reminds me of like this prince that didn't really want to like deal with the possibility of being the king, so he goes to the U.S. to go to college, and there he meets this woman who's just like focused on getting through college, getting her degree, and she finds him annoying because he's just like so, lazy and arrogant, and he doesn't seem to care about his actual like getting in good grades or anything, or actually doing any of the work. But then they end up like liking each other, and then he has to like reveal who he really is and such. So it kind of reminds me of that movie, but not really. Like there's like a whole different like set of things here. But very much excited to continue reading that. And then the last book that I will be hopefully reading this week is Punk 57. This is available through Kindle Unlimited by Penelope Douglas. I can't remember what this is about. I know it's like a steamy romance. That's what I've gotten the vibe from when people talk about her other books and everything. So I guess I'm in a romance mood, which is something that I find very strange since I haven't read a romance since I was a teenager. Like I think I tried reading romance when I was an adult, but the more I grew aged, the more I just stopped enjoying romance as much. But I've been really like wanting to read more romance, so hopefully these two I enjoy as much as I'm hoping to. But who knows? I only read like 3 books this week. I have like this massive book to get through, so I don't know if I'll actually be able to read. But anyways, I have things to do. Need to get it done real quick. So thank you all so much for watching. I would love to hear if you read any of these books, what you thought of them, and which one you think I should try first. And until next time, again, thank you all so much for watching.